Hello, everybody. I'm Mel Doerr, the Aloha Shirt Psychic, and I'm coming to you from a suburb of Chicago. Kind of chilly today and rainy. I've got a funny feeling we're getting some snow or something because my sinuses are acting up. We shall see. Anyway, there's a lot I want to talk about. Um, but first of all, I'd like to thank all of my subscribers. And please, if you like the content, hit the thumbs up, press the subscribe button. Little housekeeping. I've got openings for my Danube trip departing in May. If you're interested, come along with us. It starts in the Czech Republic, goes down to Germany, across Austria, stops in Vienna, Bratislava, Slovakia, and we end in Budapest. And there's an additional option to spend a couple days in Budapest at the end of the trip. So that's going to be exciting. Also, um, a trip to Iceland in August to see the eclipse, total eclipse. I think the eclipse lasts for about a minute or two, but it's going to be worth a trip. Iceland is such a beautiful place. It's incredible. I fell totally in love with it. And then I'm so excited, Ecuador, in September to see the Galapagos Islands. Uh, so we fly to Quito. We have a tour of Quito. We stay for a couple of days. Then they fly us to one of the Galapagos Islands. We get on a boat there, like a ship, a small boat, but comfortable and nice. And we go to different Galapagos Islands to see the wildlife. And we also have opportunities to snorkel and do fun stuff like that. So if you're interested, please call my office at 847 590 5411, 847 590 5411, or email me at mel@meldoer.com, M-E-L at Mel, Doerr.com, mel@meldoer.com. Hello to Androniki skincare products. They are incredible. Uh, People at the skincare clinic asked me what I did, and I told them, thanks to Andrew for also sending these wonderful gift bags of full product to our event in Benicia, and everybody's raving about the products. So you can check out if you want to order products, Andro, dash Nikki, Niki.com. You can go on and check out things, or just Google Andro plus Nikki, Niki, and it'll take you to the right place. So thank you, Andrew. All right. So I'm excited. Morning Moments with Mel. And this is pre-recorded, obviously, but there's a lot I want to touch on today. The first thing I want to talk about is how the I'm flipping through my notes here. uh, how the House voted to release the Epstein files. I say Epstein because it's pronounced Epstein in German. Epstein, they say in English. But anyway, you say potato, I say potato. You say tomato, I say tomato. Actually, where I come from, we say maters and taters. Or tomatoes and potatoes, depends on where in Kentucky you're from. Anyway, enough of that. The House voted 427 to 1, almost unanimously, to release the Epstein files. But I want to talk about a little bit about, Trump's reversal and why all of a sudden he did that reversal. Well, number one, he was backed into a corner, so he didn't have much of a choice. But, Linda Grindle and I talked about it on my show yesterday. Sorry, on Monday. And I am really convinced that a lot of those files have been purged and redacted. So the question is, will the entire file be released? And my guides tell me, my intuitive self says no, because they'll be heavily redacted. However, I see soon afterwards the entire file being leaked. could be by a foreign government. They hand it to somebody, and then it's leaked to foreign press, which is picked up in the American press. So um, we shall see how that plays out. Um, it's funny. I was watching Glenn Kirshner, and he gives a really good detailed description of this. Check out Glenn Kirshner. He's really cool. He was a former prosecuting attorney, but he was saying that in July, there was a memo released from the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, who, by the way, once the MAGAs are out of office, I see her going to jail for obstruction of justice and for abuse of power. But anyway, in July, and also the FBI supposedly issued a memo. Kash Patel, by the way, is another one who's going to be bye-bye for the same reasons, obstruction of justice and abuse of power. But it said that after there was a memo released, and it said that after an exhaustive search or review regarding the Epstein files, um, it said that a systematic review said that it contained absolutely no intimidating client lists. Yet Pam Bondi said she said she didn't have the file. Then she said she did. And she said it was on her desk. Then she said there was no, then she said after a review, there was no client list. Then she said she didn't have the file. Anyway, the document further stated that there was no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as a part of his actions. Um, the memo went on to say the we, meaning I guess the Department of Justice and the FBI, did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Now, this was, as I said earlier, announced in writing by the Department of Justice and the FBI. And it said essentially there was no evidence to warrant any investigations against people. Then Trump came out after he was so against the Epstein files, calling it a Democratic hoax. Now he does a complete turnabout and blames the government shutdown on the Dems, which has nothing to do with the Epstein files. Trump wanted it shut down because he didn't want those files released, but I think he also wanted to shut down to see how well he would fare in the past elections. Republicans didn't do very well. Anyway, so he blamed the shutdown on the Dems, but also grab this one, is asking Pam Bondi, or really telling Pam Bondi, as a result of the Epstein files, or he says as a result of the files, to investigate Clinton, Summers, Reid Hoffman, and Chase. He's blaming the Democrats for what? I don't know, but for this whole thing. Go figure. Hello, Donald. He always blames everybody else. Trump is lying when he says that these men, i.e., Clinton, Summers, Reid Hoffman, and Chase, and many others, Trump is lying when he says that quote, he said on Truth Social that they spent large portions of their time with Epstein and on his islands. Now, those emails that were released, the Epstein emails that were released, said that Clinton was absolutely never on Epstein's island, and Clinton had nothing to do with Epstein. A few other people came out, I think Summers and Hoffman, and said they had absolutely nothing to do with Epstein. They were never on his island. So this is one of Trump's lies in order to try to detract and divert attention away from the real issues. So back in July, when Bondi and Patel issued the statement that said there's no evidence warranting an investigation, but now It's about Trump talking Pam Bondi and Patel into doing investigation that only looks at Democrats. Well, if you're going to do an investigation, why not look at everybody? That's number one. But number two, your memo said that you've already released that there's no evidence warranting these investigations. Hello, I question the constitutionality of that, and my guides are telling me that Bondi and Patel, once Trump is out of office, are going to be in huge trouble for this. And I see some of these people that they're going to be investigating who have done absolutely nothing, filing lawsuits against the federal government and winning lots of money. So I see, my guides tell me, and Linda and I talked about this on my show yesterday, and Linda felt the same thing, that those files, as I said earlier, have been heavily redacted and filtered. In other words, there's huge chunks missing. Just like you know, just like other cases, Pam Bondi is trying to prosecute, um, like the Comey case, for example, where there's huge pieces of the grand jury tapes and files missing. Where did they go, Pam? All right. Uh, so what is really happening? What is really happening here? Uh, uh, Trump's whole flip-flop. Um, he's calling on the House Republicans to release them, and they voted to release the files. But I also see investigations into how many of those, how much has been redacted. So Bondi responded publicly on Trump's flip-flop by thanking him. Wow. By thanking him for investigating people that she said didn't need to be investigated. Doesn't make any sense, does it? It's like, look at George Orwell's 1987 in midstream when the politicians or the government changes from one thing to another. It's like, what? Anyway, um, I'm not a lawyer, but my guides are telling me that this investigation, if they in fact go through with it, is in violation of these people's constitutional rights. Uh, Now Pam Bondi says she has appointed Jay Clayton, I think is his name, who she says is one of the best investigators and prosecutors in the DOJ. Well, guess what? Lie, lie, lie. Liar, liar, pants on fire, Pamela. Jay Clayton has never been an investigator or a very good prosecutor for that matter. Look it up. Check the facts, everybody. So no matter what goes on today, my advice is to everybody is check the facts and you'll get the truth. Okay. So Trump has said all along, the Epstein files are a hoax. Well, if they're a hoax, like you said before, Donald, then why would you investigate Democrats if those files are a hoax? And people are going to start calling him on it. Um, and I find it amazing that Trump wants only Democrats investigated. Here again, divert, detract, deceive, the whole spin, which is not working or it won't work. Hoffman, one of the people, responded by saying that it's an obvious ploy to release the files. Hoffman said he had no engagement with Epstein, and this is nothing more than political persecution, which it is. I thought our Constitution protected us against reprisals from the government for criticizing the government. And I think some of this stuff that these people Trump are investigating are going to file a lawsuit and it'll go up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's going to say that this is absolutely unconstitutional and is government reprisal. So some of these justices on the court, with the exception of a few, but many of them, even some of them that Trump appointed, are going to be ruling against him more and more because they realize that they've opened Pandora's box. And now it's like trying to get the beasties back in the box. Anyway, so here again, what's Trump up to? Uh, um, Part of it, Glenn Kirshner said, and my guide said, wow, that makes perfect sense. And I got cold chills, which means it was a ploy that Trump was going to try to use. So psychically, I feel a yes on that. But Glenn Kirshner said that perhaps Trump is it's an op it's trying to give the DOJ an opportunity to say, but wait a minute, we can't release anything publicly with these files, even though the House says release them, and the Senate is going to vote to release them. Because the DOJ that can say we can't release anything publicly because we are doing an investigation of some people. So if they're doing an investigation, uh, they can just run out the time like 3 years and until Trump supposedly leaves office. I think he'll be out a lot sooner. So that's a ploy that they're thinking about using, but it won't work. My guides tell me it will not work. Uh, the other thing is Trump is talking about the House releasing the files because he was backed into a corner. Um, and there were over 100 representatives in the House that were really backing away from Trump and saying, wait a minute here, we want this released. Then that means that Trump loses his power, doesn't it? Uh, so he had to give in because what he wants to is to remain a dictator. Uh, it's so obvious that the corruption, it's so overt, it's just overwhelming. But people are going to start falling away from him in multitudes as they already are. And, it's all starting to unravel around Trump. This is the beginning of it all, the way he handled this, you know. So he's starting to lose power and he knows it and doesn't know what to do about it. My guides are telling me this whole thing with Venezuela is nothing but a distraction to divert, deceive, distract, wag the dog, right? Because then he thinks it takes the eyes off of the Epstein files. Wrong. The only thing is that if Trump really wanted those files released, he did not have to have them released through the House and the Senate. Uh, he had it in his power to release those files anytime he wanted. So don't be fooled, you all, by him saying, oh, I had to wait for the House or Senate to release them. Wrong answer. He could have done it on his own. Um, you know, his presidency is starting to fold in on him. It's starting to really implode. Uh, I see my guides tell me people in the House and Senate are already breaking away from Trump, and many more will follow suit. And they're going to have to do that if they wish to be reelected. I mean, the way that he tried to flip-flop this whole Epstein thing, people are going to be like, what? And, even news outlets, social media, calling him on it. I mean, the outcry is going to be huge. Um, so just remember, Trump had it in his power to release those files anytime he wanted. So my guides are telling me things are already unraveling around him. Okay, next, shall we keep going? All right, Trump's meeting with Mohammed bin Salman he's the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. I intuit, meaning I predict, my guides show me the whole reason for that meeting is because Trump has large personal business dealings at stake. He's doing Trump Towers both in you think Jeddah and I can't pronounce it, uh, Riyadh, I can't pronounce it, but in Saudi Arabia. Um, and he's also got a new plan with the Saudis linked to an organization called Doerr Global in the Maldives. to build a Trump International hotel or a couple of them. And he's also going to allow investors to use digital currency to finance those positions in the Maldives. Now, number one, who controls certain digital currencies? Trump does. So whose pocket is that going to go into? We got it. Cheetolini. There's investigations that are going to take place because of that, and it's going to be shown to be illegal. My guides tell me that the towers, Trump Towers, he's going to build in the Maldives, he'll end up bankrupting those, and a lot of people are going to get screwed, and a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. Uh, so there we go. Uh, nobody is really saying anything, or Trump hasn't even commented on the killing of the journalist Khashoggi. I pronounce Khashoggi, I think. Uh, but yet Trump is entertaining the regime that probably had the guy killed. So people are going to start speaking up against that. I also say that he's closing the Department of Education is going to be putting an in with other departments, but I see lawsuits being filed about that. And my guides are telling me that they're going to say, no, he just can't close willy-nilly a certain department of the government. I don't know if he needs congressional approval, but the courts are going to put an end to that. Uh, um, okay. Let me look here at my notes real quick. Just commenting on some of our things. Okay. Give me 1 second here. I'll be right with you. I'm back. I just kind of lost my place. What I do is I just take little notes and then get my predictions on them. Okay. So, Trump using the FBI as his personal police force and going against people that disagree with him as a vendetta. ICE is, his personal almost Gestapo as using them to terrify people, um, arresting people who are citizens, arresting people who are innocent without probable cause. That's all going to come back to haunt him. And using the DOJ as his own personal attorney. All of these things are abuse of power, and all of these things are totally abuse of power. And many of them are obstruction of justice and unconstitutional. So I'm not a lawyer, but they do constitute high crimes. I see impeachment articles against Trump and also against J.D. Vance, the Maybelline Queen. So if Trump uh, does make it his full 4 years, which I don't see he will, I see him impeached. So he's going to try to do anything he can to thwart the midterms because he knows if the Democrats take over the House and the Senate that he's in deep doo-doo. But he still thinks that he's above the law, but things will start to stick. And one of the worst things to do to a dictator or a wannabe dictator is for people to pull away from him. He's still going to try to create all this chaos and confusion, but people are pulling away. With Pam Bondi, what I see is, let's say that, the federal government, well, they wouldn't investigate her right now. But what I see happening futuristically is she's going to be investigated in the states, certain states where she's done illegal things. And so therefore, if she's convicted in a state or certain states, the federal government can't do anything. And that's what I see. My guides tell me. I think Donald Trump is obviously sending a message to people that open state investigations against his cronies that he's going to come after the people in the states that launch those investigations federally. But he can try all he wants, just like with the Epstein files. but he's not going to have a leg to stand on. So then he'll try to cut those states' spending and those states' funding, but it's not going to work. Uh, okay. Um, so when the Epstein files are released, I think they're going to try some shenanigans, Trump and Bondi, to keep them from being released. But I can tell you right now, they've been heavily redacted. I've already said that. All right. The federal court today, this is exciting, blocked the Texas Republicans' redrawn congressional map. A whole panel of federal judges blocked Texas from using this new redrawn map, blocked them from using it. Now, uh, Judge Jeffrey Brown, who was put on the court by Trump, nominated by Trump, ordered Texas to use its previous map that was drawn in 2021 instead. So even the judges that Trump appointed are ruling against him. Now, Governor Abbott, in his ultimate divine wisdom, that's to Governor Abbott. Reminds me of Rosanna Dan. Remember, what are you trying to do? Get me sick or something? Remember that? Anyway, Governor Abbott, in his divine wisdom, said Texas will appeal to SCOTUS. It came out that these districts were racially gerrymandered. So if it goes to SCOTUS, my feeling is SCOTUS is going to uphold the decision of the lower court and say, wait a minute, you can't do this. And I laugh because Texas wanted to file suit against California because California put it on the ballot with Prop 50 to redraw their congressional districts, and Prop 50 passed in California and in other states as well. So I find it interesting where the Supreme Court is going to uphold the lower court decision that you cannot do that. You can't gerrymander, you can't racially gerrymander. So I don't know exactly what that will do for California, but it's going to send the message to a lot of these states that just, especially red states that say, oh, we're just going to redraw our political maps to give favor to our Republican candidates. Court's going to say, no, you cannot do that. Now, they might also say it to states where the Democrats want to do the same. But my feeling is if the court even decides to hear it, which I don't think they will, they'll probably uphold the decision of the lower courts. So one of the things that's going to come out, and I love the way the judge worded this in this Texas case, is because it might hold different for other states, but each one of those could go to have the Supreme Court decide as well. But one of the things in Texas that came out is that those congressional districts were gerrymandered. It was prejudicial. It was racist. It was racially gerrymandered, and the Supreme Court's going to say, no, you cannot racially gerrymander. Texas is only 40% white, 40% white, but white voters control over 73% of the state's congressional seats or in state congressional districts. So that's going to change you all. I see with court intervention, the courts are going to say, no, 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 no. So Texas is really having its own form of apartheid. You know, uh, so, I think this is a victory for the majority of Texans, not the 40% white, but the majority of 60% of Texans, and for preserving our democracy. So anyway, one other thing that on Air Force One, reporter Catherine um, I forgot her last name, but anyway, uh, she questioned Trump about the Epstein files, and he called her Piggy. I think he said hush hush piggy or something like that. So people are up in arms uh, about it, and they should be. So things for Trump are really starting to unravel, which brings me back to Abbott in Texas. I'm skipping around. I'm sorry. My ADD's in full force. But I've often said that Abbott is going to be in big trouble for the unconstitutional stuff he's been doing. So this starts his unraveling. It starts the unraveling of Paxton. I still see that Attorney General Paxton down there in jail and in trouble. And I got a feeling that some of the seats in Texas are going to go blue. Yay. Um, and I see, Abbott, I think he can't run anymore, but I'm seeing that a lot of Texans have had it, and that I see a governor down there once Abbott is gone that's going to be more middle of the road. And I'm predicting a blue win for Texas in a gubernatorial election after Abbott is gone. So let's see how that plays out. Anyway, you all, I just wanted to touch base on all this going on. I am so happy that the courts ruled that Texas cannot racially gerrymander. And they're going back to the districts that were drawn in 2021 as opposed to this new thing that would give them 5 seats. The Republicans 5 seats in the House. You know, um, I see the SCOTUS being fair-minded about it, if they even hear it. Uh, I'm sure that a lot of those justices of the Supreme Court are so tired of these midnight emergency sessions because of all the crap that, Trump is trying to put through the court. I mean, they're probably tired of hearing all these lunatic cases. At least most of them are. And I still see 2 justices being impeached, and Clarence Thomas ultimately resigning, but I see him in hot water. And I see 2 more justices impeached and removed from the court. So a lot's going to happen, you all. It's going to get rougher before it gets any better. But remember, Trump's presidency is starting to implode. So let's see how it plays out. Thank you for watching, and welcome to Morning Moments with Mel. So talk to you later.